For more than a century, we've powered our world by digging deep for fossil fuels. But what if I told you the ultimate clean energy source isn't something we have to make, but something we just have to find? What if it's been right there, under our feet, this whole time? Okay, let's get into the incredible story of white hydrogen. This one sentence just says it all, doesn't it? For decades, the entire energy industry was chasing black gold. And in the process, they completely overlooked a massive, naturally occurring source of clean, what some are now calling golden gas. So our story kicks off, like a lot of great discoveries, completely by accident. We're going back to the 1980s in Mali, where a crew was drilling for a simple water well. Well, one of the drillers goes to light a cigarette and boom, the whole well just explodes. But not with a typical smoky yellow flame. This was a nearly invisible, colorless flame that just kept burning for weeks. When they were finally able to analyze the gas that was pouring out of that well, they were just floored. It was 98% pure hydrogen. Now, a purity level like that was, well, it was unheard of. This clearly wasn't natural gas. It was something else entirely, something that, according to the science of the day, shouldn't even be there. So you've got to be asking, why did it take 30 years for the world to catch on that this crazy discovery in Mali wasn't just some weird fluke? Well, it all boils down to a huge misunderstanding, a great misconception that had the entire scientific community in a chokehold for decades. See, geologists were all working under this idea called the leaky bucket theory. The thinking went like this. Hydrogen is the smallest molecule in the universe, so it's just too tiny and way too reactive to stick around. It would either get eaten by microbes, react with rocks, or just leak out into space. Literally, no one bothered to look for it because, well, everyone just knew it couldn't be found. Which, of course, brings us to the big question. If the bucket was supposed to be leaky, how in the world did this well in Mali have a reservoir of pure hydrogen that's now been producing power for over a decade? It turns out the Earth isn't a leaky bucket at all. It's a factory. And this is the real aha moment of this whole story. Scientists now realize that our planet is constantly, and I mean constantly, creating pure hydrogen through some pretty incredible natural processes. It's almost like a natural recipe. The main ingredient is a process called serpentinization. It's where water reacts with iron-rich rocks deep underground. The iron basically just rips the oxygen atom off the water, and what's left behind? Pure hydrogen. It can also be made when natural radiation splits water molecules, or even when ancient hydrogen from the Earth's core slowly leaks up to the surface. And we're not talking about a small amount here. The U.S. Geological Survey just dropped a bombshell of an estimate. There could be trillions of tons of this stuff locked away. Just to put that into perspective, we're talking about an amount of energy that absolutely dwarfs anything we've ever tapped into before. And get this, we don't even need to find all of it to completely change the game. The USGS thinks that if we can recover just 1%, just one of that total, it would be enough to meet the entire planet's demand for clean hydrogen for hundreds of years. Okay, so you have this natural or white hydrogen. How does it really stack up against all the other types of hydrogen we're always hearing about? To really get that, we need to take a quick look at the hydrogen color wheel. You've probably heard of gray and blue hydrogen, which are made from fossil fuels. Gray just vents its CO2 straight into the air, while blue tries to capture it, but that's often really expensive and doesn't work perfectly. Then there's green hydrogen, which is totally clean, but making it requires gigantic amounts of renewable energy and tons of pure water. White hydrogen, though, it's just there. It's already been made for us. And here is the real economic kicker. The big global goal right now is to get the cost of green hydrogen down to $2 a kilogram by 2030. That little well in Mali, it's already pumping out hydrogen for about 50 cents a kilogram. It's not just cleaner, it's ridiculously cheaper. So, as you can probably guess, what started as a complete fluke in a small village in Africa has now set off a global gold rush. Geologists, energy companies, startups, they're all in a race to find the next huge deposit of this so-called golden gas. And you know what? They're finding it. In France, they've stumbled upon what could be the world's largest deposit in a place called the Lorraine Basin. There's this massive geological scar that runs right through the American Midwest that looks like a perfect kitchen for making hydrogen. And down in Australia, they're drilling in spots where old oil records from the 1930s literally complained about annoying gas flares. Turns out that annoying gas was hydrogen all along. But maybe the most practical advantage of all this is the human side of it. This isn't about destroying an industry, it's about pivoting it. The very same skills, the same geologists, the same drilling rigs used for oil and gas can be directly repurposed for white hydrogen. It's about as perfect a just transition for that workforce as you could possibly imagine. So let's zoom out a bit. What does a world actually powered by white hydrogen look like? I mean, the potential for disruption here is absolutely massive. It could change everything from geopolitics to how we think about the environment. For the last century, global power has been tied to petrostates, countries that happen to sit on top of massive concentrated oil reserves. But the geology that creates hydrogen seems to be way more common, spread all over the globe. This could lead to a world of hydrostates, basically democratizing energy and giving a lot of nations true energy independence for the very first time. And the environmental benefits are huge. A hydrogen well uses a tiny fraction of the land you'd need for a massive solar or wind farm. It's not competing for precious freshwater resources like green hydrogen production does, and it completely avoids the need for massive mining operations to get battery minerals like lithium and cobalt. Now, it's not a perfect silver bullet, of course not. The single biggest challenge is going to be making sure the infrastructure, all the pipes and storage tanks, is absolutely leak-proof. Because if hydrogen gas escapes into the atmosphere, it can indirectly cause warming. So smart, strict regulation is going to be absolutely key. This quote frames where we are right now just perfectly. For anyone who doesn't know, Spindletop was this monster oil gusher in Texas back in 1901 that basically kicked off the entire oil age and made whale oil obsolete overnight. Discovering these massive geologic hydrogen deposits, it really feels like we're on the cusp of that same kind of historic turning point. When you really step back and look at it, the story is just remarkable. We've spent generations digging for carbon that we then have to burn, all while it seems the Earth has been quietly making a much, much better fuel all along, a primary energy source hidden in plain sight. And it leaves us with one pretty incredible question to think about.